There it is. Aaron Rodgers out for the year with his injury. And now, where do we look as fantasy managers? This is a tough blow, man. For Aaron Rodgers managers, for Garrett Wilson managers, for managers of the Jets running backs. I mean, this
for
has
NFL fans.
This has wide-ranging fantasy implications. So we got to talk about all that right now. Number one for Aaron Rodgers. Obviously you're not getting Aaron Rodgers back, and so the good news with that is that he wasn't being drafted overly high this year. So from a draft capital perspective, you can lose Aaron Rodgers on your fantasy team and not totally lose your entire season. So that's a positive. One of the drawbacks, however, is going to be that the guys on the waivers that we're going to suggest to you now obviously don't have as high of upside as Aaron Rodgers would have had in that Jets offense. So that's going to stink. But here are a couple guys. I'll give you one, Nathan will give you one, that we're going to be targeting on waivers to replace Aaron Rodgers if he was your QB on your fantasy team. Mine's going to be Brock Purdy. And with Brock Purdy, I think he's proven in the short time he's been the starter for the San Francisco 49ers that he is more than capable of coming out, throwing to his weapons, utilizing his weapons well, and letting those guys score fantasy points for him. I mean, between Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, like the dude,
a lot of checkdowns to go around.
The dude can get it to anybody. Like just let him score for you. Obviously, in week one, he didn't score an overt amount of points. However, we're going to expect him in that offense, in that very high octane offense, to be elite the rest of the year. And again, he's on the waivers in most of your leagues, so you should be going and getting him to replace Aaron Rodgers. And our second guy
is Jordan Love, the guy who ironically replaced Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And he has started out with a great week one playing against Chicago, who everyone was like, oh, this is Chicago's year. Here we go. Chicago is finally going to have Green Bay's number. No, no, it was per usual, Chicago getting obliterated by Green Bay. Jordan Love, 23 fantasy points in week one off of, I think, just 15 completions and like 23 pass attempts or something like that. Not a ton of volume there, but I would expect his pass attempts to increase as the season goes on. And when Christian Watson comes back healthy, you're going to have that full wide receiver unit for Jordan Love to work with, not to mention the receiving upside in Aaron Jones as well, who just gifts these quarterbacks fantasy points. He did for Aaron Rodgers for years. So I really like that situation. I think Jordan Love was already going around where Rodgers was in fantasy.
Pretty much, yeah.
So if you're able to get him off waivers, if he was, a guy that people didn't pick up in your less in your leagues where there weren't as many players playing, then you can get him or even get a nice trade for him as well. So those are the two guys we're looking for to replace Aaron Rodgers here. And honestly, it kind of is just tragic because I'm currently envisioning
Aaron Rodgers, dude.
What are the shows that we've seen that have like the most tragic deaths of main characters?
I mean, Anakin, when he becomes Darth Vader, that's what this. I mean, that's making me this sad.
Yeah, that's essentially a character death.
It is a character death. It's Anakin Skywalker. So, all right. Anyways, so let's talk about the players on the Jets. So, starting at wide receiver, the biggest one here and the highest drafted Jet this season was Garrett Wilson.
This sucks.
This really sucks. I mean, I'm gonna pull up my exposure right now.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think I drafted a lot of Garrett Wilson, honestly. So, I probably lucked out there.
I couldn't get my hands on him very much.
Well,
I maybe had
a blessing in disguise,
one or
I guess.
2 shares of him.
Because listen, like Garrett Wilson, a lot of the intrigue with him was that he was going to be playing with a Hall of Fame level quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and now he's going to be playing with Zach Wilson. And I think I'm being modest when I say that Zach Wilson is not a Hall of Fame level quarterback.
That's a little bit bold of you to assume that already, but whatever.
So with Garrett Wilson, I mean,
you cannot completely write Garrett Wilson off this season. I mean, you're talking about a guy who his rookie season was still in half PPR. That's like your standard redraft leagues. In half PPR, he still was wide receiver 19 last year with who at quarterback? Okay, Zach Wilson's bad. I am telling you that Zach Wilson this year, after being behind Aaron Rodgers for a while, the whole offseason, learning plenty from him, like he will not be as bad as he was last season.
Yeah, agreed.
And Joe Flacco, horrible. Anyone who was playing there was horrible offensively. Garrett Wilson will have a really safe floor because he's that good of a wide receiver. But when you're looking for upside and you're looking for like fantasy points that ultimately win you championships in fantasy, like you're screwed if he's your wide receiver one. There's no good way around it. It's just the fact of the matter, and it's the reality of injuries, and that's the game we play in the NFL. And that's why 90% of fantasy football is luck.
Yes.
Is you're just hoping that all these guys stay healthy and the guys around them stay healthy as well. So this is just going to be an unfortunate thing where I would not be selling Garrett Wilson at a discount yet. I'd like to see how the rest of the pieces fall. I'd like to see the run game. What does Breece Hall do? What does Dalvin Cook do? I mean, Breece Hall currently, while we're recording this, is averaging 50 yards per carry.
He just had one that wasn't 50 yards.
But still, he's looking pretty solid.
He looked real good in the Monday night game.
Yeah.
So look, and
Dalvin Cook, this is another guy.
So that's a whole other thing, because I actually have a different view on the running backs. But for wide receivers, Garrett Wilson was really the only one you were like really drafting.
Yeah.
So look, it's just going to cap his ceiling. But Garrett Wilson's still obviously good. Something that does intrigue me is potentially moving off of Garrett Wilson for Cooper Kupp plus. That would really make me think in fantasy right now. If people are still willing to pay that for Garrett Wilson, like Cooper Kupp, if he's back, absolutely has higher upside. So that's just me throwing
at this
out
point,
ideas,
this is just, again, such a clear example of luck. So if you want to take your shot, you're already screwed with Garrett Wilson. Why not just try and get that upside chance again with Cooper Kupp? Because there's just as good a chance of Cooper Kupp coming back and playing like he did before as Garrett Wilson is producing like we expected with Aaron Rodgers, but now playing with Zach Wilson.
All right, so the running backs. So hear me out on this, and you probably, I think you're going to agree with me on this. This doesn't, in my opinion, hurt the running backs a whole lot. I think this is going to give Breece Hall more work, and I think it's also going to allow Dalvin to get more checkdowns and get a little bit more work in the receiving game, because I think that they're going to try to make it easier on Zach Wilson or whoever's going to be in there. So I think that the running backs, because they're not going to have as dynamic of a passing game, they're going to rely on those running backs a little bit more.
That's true. There's only so much you can take from this game specifically against Buffalo, because their entire game plan, their entire playbook was written for Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
So you're going to go into these next weeks now where they're going to have an entire game plan written up and ready to go with Zach Wilson, where they're going to make it easy on him, and they'll probably, you're right, they're going to want to make those running backs their strong point, the focal point in their offense. Because I personally, right off the bat, I was like, Dalvin's screwed, because I'm thinking like, all right, Aaron Jones is Dalvin Cook in this offense for the Jets.
But you saw what Aaron Jones did with Jordan Love.
Yeah. Yep.
And he doesn't need an Aaron Rodgers. He's the guy that makes the young QB better. Dalvin Cook might be a sneaky buy after this. He might be. And Breece Hall, I don't know, because again, he ripped off a couple huge runs, and so now everybody's like, oh, Breece Hall's it. So you probably aren't going to be able to get Breece cheap, but Dalvin you might. And Dalvin might be somebody you should be looking into.
Yeah.
So
I think ultimately you're really you're disappointed with Garrett Wilson. You're just.
I don't think there's a good way.
No way.
I actually have 12% Garrett Wilson, so that's actually a big bummer.
Yeah, that's tough.
So again, best of luck to Aaron Rodgers. We love Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has been one of my favorite football players since I was a little kid.
I've honestly, it has been a long time since publicly he seemed this happy and this hyped to play football for another year. And this is so unfortunate for him. But honestly, as an NFL fan and as a guy who has literally grown up since I was a child watching Aaron Rodgers, I hope he comes back from this injury and has the fire to play for another year, that fire in his gut. I hope he plays in 2024 with the Jets, because I think they have just as good a chance then to make a Super Bowl run as they did going into this season before this unfortunate injury.
That is a team built for Aaron Rodgers, so that really, really sucks. But again, we have to move forward, and we have to evaluate the fantasy implications. I got it. Fantasy implications. And we have to figure out what to do with our teams. So those are things that we're going to be doing with our teams. Rapid reaction video. Do us a huge favor if you enjoyed it. Make sure you drop a like on the video, and make sure you are subscribed if you want instant reactions to the biggest news in fantasy, just like this. We got you. We were lightning quick with that thing. Definitely didn't pre-record it or anything.
Totally assuming.
Good thinking though, right? Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.